In this video, we are diving into one of the core topics of air regulations, which is international organizations and conventions, from ICAO to IATA, and the key conventions that shape the global aviation. This is an essential knowledge for every DGCA aspirant. So let's take off into the international sky of aviation law. Air regulations is all about flying safe and organized. It's very important subject in the DGCA exam. Also, it is very important for a pilot in their career and also for the other aviation staffs. It helps pilots follow different procedures and understand how aviation works all over the world. We'll talk about organizations like ICAO and IATA and also the conventions that connect the countries through aviation. Talking about conventions, conventions are formal international agreements or treaties between multiple countries. So every participating country should have legal clarity about the agreed rules to avoid the conflicts that may arise in international aviation. Right? They standardize rules and procedures between countries. So multiple countries agree on a set of rules, and they follow those rules in their aviation. So conventions are created to set common rules or standards. They ensure safety, efficiency, and legal clarity in international air travel. They are made so that the participating countries follow the same rules. This avoids confusion or accidents during international operations. Okay. So they define things like aircraft registration, liability for damage, airspace rights, and security protocols. So basically, this allows nations to work in coordinated airspace system. So we have a list of conventions which happened from 1919 to 1963, and those are the ones that are shown here, starting with Paris Convention, which happened in the year 1919. This was the first framework for international air navigation. Basically, this was the foundation stone for setting up the international air navigation rules. Then we have the Warsaw Convention, which was in 1929. Um, this discusses about the liability of air carriers for passengers, baggage, and cargo. Basically, the liability of the airliner, the uh, company through which you are flying, through which the passengers are flying. So, liability of the airliner for the passengers and their baggage. Then we have the Chicago Convention, which happened in the year 1944. This was the foundation of international civil aviation, which is ICAO. This has many articles which we'll be going through in the upcoming videos. It's a very detailed convention. It has many rules and regulations which we'll be going through. Okay. Then we have the Geneva Convention, which was in 1948, which protects the rights of sellers, lessors, and mortgages of aircraft. Right? Basically, the sellers who are selling an aircraft or who are giving an aircraft on lease. So it protects their rights. It talks about what are their rights and what are the rules they're going to follow. Okay. Then we have the Tokyo Convention, the Rome Convention, which was in 1952. So this talks about the liability of the liability for damage caused to third parties on the ground by foreign aircraft, right? Meaning, um, a plane is flying on the air and there are people on the ground, right? There are people and properties on the ground. So any damage caused to person or um, structures on the ground because of an aircraft. So it talks about that. It talks about the liability of the aircraft owner. Then we have the Tokyo Convention, which was in 1963. Um, it talks about the jurisdiction and offenses on board aircraft, which is hijacking and crimes. So what procedure should be followed when there is a hijacking? um, like who has the authority to take the decisions, what decisions to be made for a safe for the safety of the passengers and their cargo. Yeah. Um, Mind you, some of these conventions are not ratified by India. Ratified meaning India does not follow some of these conventions, but India does follow most of them, right? The other conventions that we'll be going through next. So India follows most of them, but not all of them. So we say some of these conventions are not ratified by India. We'll go through that in next videos. We'll go through all the conventions in details. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So conventions from 1970 to 2001. We have the Hague Convention, 1970. So suppression of unlawful seizure of aircraft. Right. This is hijacking. This adds some more detail to the convention which was already there on hijacking. So Hague Convention is basically for the hijacking, right? So what rules to be followed, what procedures to be followed during an hijacking, during a hijacking, right? Then we have the Montreal Convention, which is sabotage, 1971. So suppression of acts of sabotage or violence against aircraft safety. So it talks about the aircraft safety, right? Then we have the Guadalajara Convention, which was in 1961, which supplemented the Warsaw Convention for third-party carriers, right? Code sharing, which we call. We'll go through all these conventions in detail. So some of these terms might not make sense to you right now, but eventually they will when we go through them in detail. Then we have the Montreal Protocol, again one of the most important protocol, the convention, right? Montreal Protocol and Montreal Convention. It talks about enhanced protection against unlawful acts of violence at airports. Then Montreal Convention, which talks about updated and replaced the Warsaw Convention system of liability for international air travel. At last, we have the Cape Town Convention, which was held in 2001, which talks about international protection of interests in aircraft that are ownership, leasing, and finance. So now talking about the international organizations, we have ICAO, the most important one, uh, which establishes standards for aviation. It ensures aviation safety, improves air navigation services, and also looks into environmental protection in aviation. Right? Then we have IATA. It maintains the technical standards for ticketing, baggage handling, cargo, and airline operations. Then we have the WMO, which sets the international standards for collecting, sharing, and analyzing weather data, right? Weather and climate data. So basically, collection and sharing of weather data across the countries, the participating countries. Okay. So this was basically an introduction video to understand what are conventions and what are the international organizations. We'll be going through them in detail in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned. Again, the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning. Well said by Bertrand Piccard. Please share your suggestions, recommendations, and feedbacks. Do like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. See you in the next one.